Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Today I wanted to talk about basically something that somebody basically typed out loud in my comment section from one of my posts. I posted that I'm thinking that the Division 3 is going to be basically a single player experience. And a lot of people said it's going to kill the game. A lot of people said it's going to do this, it's going to do that. I saw a bunch of comments from, people all over the community in regard to that. But somebody said, they thought it was a good idea because putting the PvP aside may be something that Massive needs and requires to hone down their craft of PvE in the game, and PvP may just not be a necessity. Now, this was somebody else's comment. This is not necessarily a comment that I would say in public, but since they said it, I thought, that actually lines up with some of the things that I think. I say things about PvP, even though I'm not a big fan of it, but, I think one of the things that I don't necessarily see as valuable in this game is the way the PvP is. Most of my core community of gamers will tell you that they don't understand why I don't like PvP in the Division or the Division 2, and it's not necessarily that. It's just I prefer a PvP that is very structured. In the Division and the Division 2, the PvP is not structured, and so that basically throws a specific segment of the game off. And I think that that evidence of the Division 1 thriving from a PvE based system is what's translating into the Division 2. I've heard a lot of people say it was PvP that kept the Division 1 alive. People were streaming PvP, playing PvP, and all of that. But many people are not necessarily evaluating all of this, which is something was going on in many cases at some point on a personal level in the community when it came to PvP. People insult other people. There were content creators who basically were driven out of this ecosystem because there were people who thought that, they were going to measure up in a video game and play the tough guy. Then you see a lot of people putting up these videos of, them yelling, cursing each other out and all of that stuff. And as Ubisoft is a company, for those of us who really know the way Ubisoft is doing things, I doubt that they have the kind of guts that Activision has to take on, a lot of the, I would say the smack talking cycle on the internet. I think it's smack talking. I mean, it is what it is. If you play many games, people will smack talk you if they can actually say something and if they win, or sometimes if they lose. I play Mortal Kombat 11 on PlayStation 4. I mean, I get smack talked all the time, but there are, studios who decide to leave these systems in the game so people can still have communication, and at the risk of people abusing it. And so I think what we saw with the Division 1 was we saw this, and then we saw it taken to a further extent where people were now doxing one another. People were making, all kinds of threats and all that. And because the Division community is very small, these kinds of things pretty much made their way to the development team. Now, maybe their reaction to that was to reduce the Dark Zone size, but I know for sure that one very, very obvious thing that they did with the Division 2's Dark Zone was disable the VoIP. A lot of people complained about this and said, why is the VoIP disabled? And I think they said something along the lines of toxicity, or whatever it is they wanted to call it. But I just think that was not necessarily conducive for what they wanted their brand to be. And that's something that a lot of people, sometimes we neglect anyways. A company has its branding when it comes to its products. And Ubisoft does not want to in any way associate itself with anything like that. A lot of companies are moving that way. Many of us, we grew up in the days where if somebody, basically smack talked to you, you just laughed and, walked away. It was not a big deal. But in today's world, Sony wants to start recording your conversations and all that stuff so as to deal with, bullying and all that stuff. It's a very different world. If I would weigh in on that on this video, it'll probably be a whole nother segment, but let me digress. If you want to know my personal thoughts, meet me in Discord. We'll talk extensively about it. And so when you think about all of this, you think about, the way the PvP has basically gone full circle. I genuinely think that the only thing that PvP will be used for, or the main thing PvP will be used for in the Division 2, is as a marketing stunt. I think when they bring out a year 3, I still think they'll bring out a year 3. Some people are saying that year 3 may not come out, or Division 3 may not come out. I think they're all going to come out, in that order. Year 3 first, and then we're going to get an announcement for Division 3, I think they're going to use PvP as basically a marketing stunt. They did it in the Division 2. They made this big marketing campaign. Oh, the Division 2 Dark Zone. Yeah. Only for people to walk into the Dark Zone and realize, wow, this is not like the Dark Zone from the Division 1. If you get what I mean. We got conflict. We got all these PvP modes. But in reality, it didn't seem like they had a lot of what they wanted to invest into the Dark Zone. And then by the time they found out that the player base was asking for something that they didn't want to deal with, they eventually probably just put the project on back burner, which was a bigger Dark Zone. It wasn't like they wanted gear. So it wasn't like, PvP players wanted, some other things. Yeah, you could neglect like, movement and all that stuff. But once they started saying the map is too small, we need more, interaction, and then we need more space, I think the development team just kind of put that away and said, man, maybe it's not profitable enough to move that direction. And that's a sad thing. That's one part where we all talked about the beginning of the Division 2's marketing, where the campaign was hype inducing and many people fell for the hype. There were only a few people that were saying it. I made videos then saying, do not buy the Division 2. Make sure you know exactly what you're going into. But a lot of the hype basically just reeled a lot of people in. And many of you at this point, many of us know that gaming companies will oversell. In essence, false marketing, and Massive is highly, from the beginning and the onset of Division 2, guilty of this, in my opinion anyways. Maybe not Massive as a studio, but somebody there, the creative director, you know who you are. You said all this fun stuff at E3, and only for the game to not necessarily turn out to be what people were expecting. True fans and, big time, fanboys or whatever you want to call them, we still play the game because the PvE side I feel is much better than the PvP side, but that's basically where it's at. So I wonder if a Division 3 will be a cut down version of what this game has to offer. A story experience with a single player. This is something that, the creative director himself had talked about or teased on Twitter a while ago. Maybe that's a direction they'll go because it will save them, a lot of the server infrastructure, and maybe because the Division is also probably something that they might want to just shelve because of everything that's basically gone down in this community. Maybe they want to take Avatar and move it to that direction, which is a whole brand new, franchise, a different brand that will probably be seeking out a separate community out there, and they probably just want to say, you know what, we're going to cut our losses. Division 3 may just be a small little project that we do, probably 25, 30 hours with a lot of different, things that you could play for 60 or maybe 100 hours like Assassin's Creed if you wanted to. I think this might be a possibility, and I think it's because of everything so far that we've seen. But don't be surprised that they bring out a full-fledged Division 3 game because they're Ubisoft. You never really know what they're capable of doing. They will basically rinse and repeat a formula until the formula dies, and then they will revive the formula and repeat it again. Because even though we may say the Division 2 might not have been really that profitable to them, all they just said in their earnings call was it didn't meet expectations. Expectations were what? The same sales as the Division 1, over $100 and something million. Division 1, when it came out, I think it sold a little bit more than FIFA, or just as much as FIFA that year, 2016, which was, one of FIFA's biggest highlights. And everything else basically has, had to follow in the shadow of the Division when it comes to all of Ubisoft. So if they say expectations, maybe they were reaching for maybe 90% of those and they didn't reach expectations. They only got 70% of it. That's still a very huge chunk and a reason for them to be able to bring out another game. So I want to hear your thoughts. Do you really think they can make a Division game without PvP? Do you think that they can do a single player experience without the co-op, or it would need the co-op in order for the game to be marketable? Or do you think that, they overreacted in changing the entire PvP aspect of the game, which is basically something that we're seeing in the Division 2, and they should have just kept their original formula? Let me know in the comment section, and hopefully we'll see in another video. Peace.